all set?
So I'll get sign sheet circulated, so. So we're gonna have any power outages today?
I don't know. It's a holiday weekend, you never know what those guys are thinking.
If it hasn't happened by noon, probably
I fixed it already.
not. So we're recording anyway.
I haven't started yet. You're all set to go?
I guess so, yeah.
Okay. Okay, we're on. It's September the 1st, 2017. This is a collective bargaining session, Pasco County and International Brotherhood of Teamsters Local 79. I'm Jim Sherrill.
Barbara Hissman for the county?
Representing the union is myself, John Schultes, business agent, and
Doug Heck, volunteer, local 79.
Connie Colton, Emergency Services. Gwen Washington, Utilities.
Raymond Duffy, shop steward, Public Works.
Pam White, Libraries.
Tom Longden, Fleet.
Last but not least, Ed Seizik, Utilities.
I thought the most productive way to respond to your proposals would be using your proposal package and going through it page by page, I guess.
Okay.
Getting past the table of contents. Those articles that are unchanged, most of them will be TA'd. We're willing to TA them.
Want to go through those real quick? Just
Yeah,
for the
sure.
list one?
So preamble, TA. Yeah, no article. So
Yep.
Article 1, TA. Article 2, bargaining unit work is still open. Call out pay, Article 3, TA. Article 4, collateral documents, the union's rejecting the change, but we're willing to TA the status quo. Article 5, compensatory time, TA. Article 6, contract negotiations is still open. We have a proposal on that. Article 7, court leave, TA. Article 8, demotion, TA. Article 9, discipline for just cause. I'd like to respond paragraph by paragraph. The first, Section A, Article 9, Section A, we're on the TA, the changes as proposed by the county, as well as Section B, we're on the TA. And Section C, the union's counter proposal is just simply striking that last sentence in C, where it says, when appeal and discipline, the burden of proof is on the employee to establish that the discipline was without just cause. That goes against everything I've ever been taught and trained and read about the concept of just cause, that the employer is considered a moving party, and the moving party is the one that has to prove the case. So our proposal is to delete that final sentence. We're okay with B and TA, Section D, Section E, okay to TA, Section F, TA, and Section G, we're rejecting the county's language, and we still have a proposal on changing those time limits that are currently 5 years and 7 years, now to 2 years and 4 years. So that proposal still stands, and we're not interested in including or expanding any other of those items that the county proposed in G. And H, I, and J are all okay with the changes in those, as well as the entire rest of the article, which goes from K to P. We're okay with those. P was the personnel board. One of these days I might actually meet the personnel board. Okay, so Article 10. Feel free to stop me anytime.
Yeah, that's good.
Article 10, drug-free workplace. We're rejecting the county's proposal, which is created. Sure.
Did you get my email that I sent you about the few employees that have already called me about, is the county gonna come up with a policy for
No, we're not coming up with a policy. It doesn't get treated any differently than any other prescribed medication.
Okay, so it's gonna be considered as a.
If it would be
I
prescribed,
don't
and
think,
there's a
yeah,
big.
that, well, the people that have called me already have the prescriptions from the doctor. They didn't want to fill them and use it because they weren't sure on what to
Yeah.
do.
Just make sure that they understand it's a prescription, because sometimes doctors are giving a recommendation, not a prescription, and there is a difference, and so they would have to. Why are you rejecting the language in 10 that has the, just simply is what our practice is, or the random by DOT requirements? Is there a particular reason that you're rejecting that?
Yeah, I mean, my understanding that the proposal is that all employees are going to be subject to random testing. It's provided by FDOT requirements.
Is that what your understanding of the language is? Employees are subject to random drug testing when random drug testing is provided by FDOT requirements?
It doesn't say when. We're changing the proposal. When random testing is provided.
When random testing is provided by FDOT requirements, or if the employee works in a mandatory test position as determined by Florida 440.
Well, we just don't, either the law applies or it doesn't apply.
Well, this is just the law, that's why I'm asking why you're rejecting it, that's what I was.
We don't need to have it in there if it's a law.
We do, because the balance of 440 says that it's a provision of the collective bargaining, so we need to address it, indicate that it applies.
Well, the concern is that is going to somehow be expanding to all employees.
It can't. We can only test mandatory under 440. We can't test non-mandatory.
Right.
Has there been any changes to 440 in the last year?
No, not that I'm aware of.
So not in the last year, and probably not in the last 7 years. or-
No, it changed about
13?
2.5 years ago, maybe 3, when it changed. It used to use, under the reasonable suspicion, it was a provision that changed. This language regarding mandatory tests came in with the last amendment.
Well, if it hasn't been in there and it hasn't been a problem, then I don't see why there would be a need to put it in there.
Well, it's been in there because we haven't bargained it yet. This is the proposal to do it.
Well, we're rejecting the proposal. I'm just saying that there's no requirement that it has to be in there unless you're telling me that it is. And if there is, I'd like to see that in writing. And if it's not required,
No, it's just, we have to bargain it. That's all. It doesn't have to be in there.
so bargaining means two parties agree to something and we're just rejecting.
All right, so without any language in the contract, if we send one of your members who falls in a mandatory test position for random testing, you will not take issue with it.
I can't guarantee that. I don't know the circumstances any more than I would ask you to guarantee that you won't take issue with a certain.
I'm telling you what the circumstances are. They're selected randomly.
Well, there's all kinds of mitigating circumstances that we both don't know until that particular issue comes up, and we'll address it then.
Okay, no problem.
So Article 11, duration, will TA, which includes a new section C on the next page, so we're okay with
Is
that.
this supposed to be on here, under duration? I've got
That's a
it.
footnote.
Oh, okay, got it, sorry about that.
That's okay.
I apologize.
So the next page, I'm going to, just so everybody knows, is changing the dates on there, and I have a new provision about bargaining for the subsequent fiscal years. So we'll okay with that. Article 12, employee information along the TA.
Hang on one second. Okay.
That's, I think she's still going on some.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like that.
Let me know when you're ready.
Keep going.
Article 13, employee performance evaluation, the union's rejecting the county's proposal. Article 14, grievance and arbitration procedure. In the fourth paragraph, the union's rejecting the revisions to the language. In the fifth paragraph, I have a suggestion. The current language says the only proof of an agreed-to extension is a written agreement, and then I think, Barbara, you changed that to the only proof of an agreement to extension is a written agreement. It sounds kind of redundant. I just suggest we just strike the word agreed and 2. And so it will read, the only proof of an extension is a written agreement.
Yes,
That
okay.
makes sense.
And the rest of that first section is okay. But again, we're not agreeing to the full paragraph revision. And now we're at step 1, grievance and meeting.
John, just, when does your time run? What do we look to determine when the time is run?
Well, my understanding is that the timelines that are in the grievance procedure would automatically kick in the way the language is now. So if the county doesn't respond, then as it's worded, the grievance shall be advanced to the next step. Your proposal, or the county's proposal to change that, that it may be advanced, subject to the time limit provided herein, which may be calculated from the last day of the county's response. So I don't know why you're seeking to revise that. I think it says it clearly in the language that's there already. The current language says the grievance shall be advanced to the next step.
All right, so you think it's clear that if the county doesn't respond, that constitutes a denial and moves to the next step. The next step means you need to move it forward, right? And if you don't do anything, it's over.
Well, that's not what it says, though. The language says that it's advanced to the next step. So,
That usually requires you to do something.
well, maybe it usually does, but not in this provision. It says it's automatically advanced.
Right, and that's what we're trying to give you is the option to advance it or not advance it, so it wouldn't go automatically. You would be responsible for saying, hey, yeah, we want it to continue.
Well, I mean, ordinarily, first of all, what I do is not necessarily what the rights are of every bargaining unit employee. Because not all of them are dues-paying members, not all of them have the option of our representation. So this would apply to both. It's not only just about what I would do, but the current language says that the grievance is automatically advanced to the next step. And the provision, now you're putting in there lessons in.
But that doesn't apply to step 3, right? Because you have to do something, but you have the right to do something. I should put it that
For
way.
which step?
Step 3. So a grievance wouldn't automatically move to arbitration, you would have to initiate it.
Well, again, I mean, let me ask you this, what is your opinion on a non-member remaining arbitration?
They have the right to do it.
Okay, so, once again, if a non-member is presenting their own grievance or hiring counsel or whatever to represent them, then this language would apply to them and not us, so.
Do you have any procedure that requires non-members to come to you first for your review of the grievance?
At Pasco County?
Yeah.
I don't even know if there is one in there, but I don't typically hear from non-members to ask them, to review their grievance, or to ask me to review their grievance. I mean, there's in this one paragraph up from the bottom on page 13, when the union refuses to process a grievance for an employee because of the employee's non-membership in the union, the employee shall have the right to process a grievance under this agreement, but cannot require arbitration of the grievance unless the law requires otherwise. So the law requires that they have a right to, right?
Well, there are some exceptions to that. That's why I asked whether or not you review them.
Well, a non-member that calls up and says that they want to arbitrate a case is probably not going to get too far in a conversation with me because, and they just don't call. I just never hear from people. So I don't have a practice of reviewing non-members' cases prior to going to arbitration. I don't think in the years that we've been bargaining that has ever happened. But I just want to know what your feelings were on that.
Well, the issues that usually come up with a non-member pursuing something like arbitration is the outcome of the arbitration changes the interpretation of the contract, if you will, for you. And you've had no say in it from the union side of it because you didn't participate.
And a lot of our a lot of our contracts do have, they afford us the right to be present, during these meetings.
This one doesn't.
Right. So, we have recognition that says that, we are the exclusive bargaining representative. So I would imagine the limitation on a non-member bringing a case to arbitration would be limited to disciplinary action. I don't think that you have the right to go to arbitration to interpret contract language without us participating because we're the exclusive bargaining representative.
Yeah. This language is not that specific then. All right, so this article's open. Right?
Yeah, well, I want to continue on to let you know what we can agree to. So step 2, grievance hearing with the TA. And step 3, on top of page 15 of your proposal, you added language that says the determination of the arbitrability will be resolved by submission of written brief supported by affidavit. And then it continues on. If we strike the rest of that sentence, I would say we're okay with that first sentence. But I don't understand if the arbitrator determines the matter is arbitrable, the arbitration shall proceed, but the ruling on arbitrability is not final until incorporated in the arbitrator's final ruling.
The intent there was to make it, let's just say the arbitrator rules against you on arbitrability. That means the case is over, and if you want to challenge that by appeal, you could do it if you think there's some kind of bias. The converse of that is if the arbitrator says it's arbitrable, it's going to move forward. We don't want to spend the money to appeal it at that particular point. We want the arbitrator's final ruling to take effect. Because then, let's say the arbitrator hears the whole case. If the arbitrator then rules in favor of the county, we're not going to appeal it. So why waste the money up front to do it?
Well, I think arbitrability, based on your proposal, you want it to be resolved 30 days, that was your proposal a few years ago. 30 days prior to the hearing, you want arbitrability to be resolved. And I would extend that out to say that it's going to be done by written briefs. I think that's fine, that's a process. Is that a gunshot?
I don't know.
Well, it wasn't elevated. Was
Must
it
have
a car?
Thunder. Nobody's bleeding, but it just started raining. It could have been thunder.
Oh.
Wow.
All right, so if arbitrability has been decided 30 days prior, it's been decided, case closed, and then we're moving forward with a hearing. So now you want another bite of the apple with your proposal to, well, if the arbitrator changes his mind during the course of the hearing on arbitrability, but no, arbitrability has already been resolved.
That wasn't the intent. We don't want a second bite at it. We want our first shot at appeal, but not till the end of the case. I could work on the language to make that clear. We wouldn't argue arbitrability a second time in front of the arbitrator.
Right. So either accepting that first sentence works for us, or we just assume leave it the way it is. It hasn't come up in all these years anyway. So that's our counter.
So I'm just thinking out loud here, but I don't work on the language, but it could say the arbitration shall proceed, but the ruling on arbitrability is not final for the purposes of appeal until incorporated.
Well, how does that work when we're submitting briefs to an arbitrator? He has to determine no less than 30 days prior to the hearing whether it's arbitrable or not. So are you suggesting he doesn't have to give a decision on arbitrability?
No, he's going to do it, but it's not considered final for the arbitration. So it's just when the clock starts to tick for the purposes of appeal on that issue. We don't want to muddy up the arbitration if he says, let's move forward by taking an appeal and then moving to abate, the arbitration. We'll go forward with it. We will have lost at that stage, but that doesn't mean for the purposes of appeal we think the arbitrator is right, and we're not going to waive that. Let me work on the language, and maybe I can make it.
I just don't see us agreeing to. To me, the best case scenario is we have an arbitration hearing, and if you have an issue with arbitrability, then that's the first thing that's determined in the hearing, at the hearing. But the county pushed to have this that occurred 30 days ahead of time, and we agreed to it reluctantly, but we agreed to it. Now you want to say, well, he's got to agree to it 30 days ahead of time, but then, you know, he can still change his mind. So I
Well,
don't.
that's not what the intent was, as I just explained.
Okay. Well, I heard your explanation,
Make it
but.
clear, because it's pretty clear you don't understand our proposal.
Okay. We're okay with the next proposal to strike out the sentence that begins with each party shall bear full cost, and agreeing to that new language, so that's fine. Article 15, health insurance, loan TA. Holidays, no changes, no revisions, we're going to TA that, as well as Article 17, inactive status, TA. Article 18, even though there's no, I don't think there's any revisions from the county in there, but that conflicts with our seniority proposal that we had on Article 34. So we're not agreeing to Article 18 status quo because we have a provision that addresses that conflict with it. Article 19, Section 1 only, will go on the TA. And the whole paid time off concept is not going over very well with our members. I've had a significant amount of phone calls and emails on the subject, and our committee, from what I understand, pretty much unanimously is rejecting the concept of PTO.
Is that because they don't understand it?
I think
Because
they
I mean, I saw the
understand it.
email that went out at 9:10 on Tuesday morning from Ed, but it seems like it was not explained. You know, I mean, look what the county is trying to do to us is really not.
No, it's people, they come to me, I talked to 5 instructors, they don't want anything to do with it.
I think
Because I've heard
they've also
from-
done the math. Well, they're
Yeah.
looking 3 days.
No,
Which-
not really. You're gaining days unless you use all the sick days. So I have a lot of people on the other side and, you know,
And
obviously
there's
not
nothing-
members that are calling saying we really want this, so.
There's nothing in here that explains sweat time. You did not say PTO would be sweat time as far as overtime goes. A
Well,
lot of people upset with that.
Yeah, I think that wouldn't change the vacation part of it, like the PTO planned for vacation wouldn't change.
But the people that are reading this don't understand that.
It's possible, I agree with that.
Listen, I understand like the policy, and I don't necessarily have an opinion of whether it's good or whether it's bad. I'm reflecting the people out, what the union represents, and they just.
Another question that was raised to me, everybody has the time now.
Right.
Okay, what is going to happen? It's not explaining what's going to happen to that time.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It's right in here. It says initial implementation. Upon initial implementation,
What page
employees
are
shall
you on?
retain 25. It says exactly what's gonna happen.
Which is
They keep
actual
it.
25.
They keep their time.
It goes through
And then-
exactly, step by step,
okay.
exactly
Page
what
22.
happens with each bank that you already have. It goes into the fact that you keep them, you can still use them, so.
Ray, you want to volunteer anything? If you don't want to, that's fine. You don't know, Ray. You attended a meeting, you said earlier in the week, if you want to share your, if you don't, that's fine.
I think you might have been in were you at the quarterly supervisor meeting?
If you don't want to talk about it, you don't talk about it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, I explained it to, in that meeting. That's probably what I was, there were quite a few public works participants because of the awards that you guys got.
All right, so, that's just the union's response on that. I do have a couple questions,
Well, then it's,
That's thunder.
yep.
Very
On page
nice.
24,
So Ken's from my ship.
you got the dock at the port, right?
You got it docked over here, right at the Port of Hudson? If we score a touchdown and you shoot the cannons off.
It used to be a yacht, now it's upgraded to a ship.
Yeah.
On page 25, 6B, employees placed on layoff status will receive 100% paid for accrued paid time off up to time of the layoff. I wanted a clarification on, so they have to use all their leave prior to being laid off? I mean, how much advance notice do they get?
Well, in the layoff policy, I think it addresses how much time that they get, but employees placed on layoff status will receive 100% pay. So, yeah, I mean, honestly, if the intent was just to say if you're laid off, you get it paid out at 100%, so.
It was just the word
Yeah.
up to time of layoff confuses me, so.
Okay, sorry.
So if someone's getting laid off and they get the notice of being laid off, it's like, well, how long is the layoff gonna last? Well, I don't know, because you may not be able to tell.
Right.
Do you want to cash out all of your PTO? Well, no, because if I'm gonna be recalled a week from now, then no, I don't want to. And then you're losing your opportunity, according to this, if you don't cash it all.
No, that wasn't the intent, so we can fix the language, but it's 100% pay if you're laid off.
So it's not going to be revised, or you want to revise that to
Yeah.
say that
Yeah, that was, I think the intent was that if you're laid off, you get all of it.
maybe just say that while I'm laid off.
Yeah, or if employees, maybe just simply change it to employees placed on a layoff will receive 100% pay for their PTO. I think that just strike up to time of layoff, just, that's it, you know.
Yeah, well, I mean, to change the least amount of words, I mean, employees placed on layoff status will receive 100% paid for accrued paid time off
Right.
while on layoff. It might be the
Well,
least amount.
not even while, it's just, because you might, if we lay you off and you say, hey, I found another job, we're basically still saying we'll pay you, so, I mean, I'm okay with that.
Well, that would be separation at that point, right? I mean, or not necessarily.
Well, right, but that's generally the way that it's,
All right, well, if you can,
all right, I'll
reword
tweak it.
And again,
And
my
I just-
thinking is that
just-
anytime that they're on layoff, there should be
Yeah.
the opportunity to.
So if I could just do a really quick illustration, just because I don't think it's, all right, I'm just gonna give an example, okay? For those people that think they're losing days, I just wanna do this quick math, right? So let's say that every new hire has 10 vacation days, and that's what new hires get. And every person has 12 sick days, okay? That's a total of 22 days, okay? PTO, I think under this policy, the thing is 18, okay? But here's the thing, sick time is only 25% if you cash it out at the end, okay? 25% of 12 is 3. We all agree to that? So that would be 13 total days that it's worth, okay? Now you're probably thinking, well, wait a second, because that's not true, because we get to cash out half of our sick time each year. So half of the sick time that you get to cash out is 48 hours for 6 days. Everybody with me? So 6 days, when added to 10, is 16 days. Plus, you get 25% of the balance. There's no other way, unless you use it all, to get any more than that, okay? 25% of 6 is 1.5. 1.5 when added to the 10 plus the 6 is 17.5 days. 18 is still higher than 17.5. Only employees that abuse sick leave, that use all of their sick leave days during the year, could be harmed by a PTO policy. Everyone else will benefit. And that's all I'm going to say about it. If the union rejects it overall, we'll still put it in place for management, because quite frankly, it makes sense. But that's your choice.
Is this the accrual chart here, Barb?
Yeah, I think so. I can't see
Okay,
that far, but.
and how does that?
So it goes up as far as annual leave, like, you know how your annual leave crawls up? You know, the accrual rate gets higher and higher and higher?
Yes.
So does the PTO rate, based on the same type of schedule.
Okay.
So what you probably should focus on, in my opinion, is the hours, you know, if you find them offensive. I can tell you that I put it in place in Hernando County, as you well know, they have it up there, and they love it. I mean, I get more phone calls saying, hey, thank you so much for putting that in place. The employees love PTO time. So it's stunning to me, I mean, it's not stunning to me, actually. But for those people that don't understand it, okay, I get it, or that aren't willing to consider it because, you know, what are we trying to do to you? I gotta live by this plan. So anybody that thinks that I'm here, you know, trying to put something in place, as your letter suggests, you know, to put the screws to the employees or whatever, that's ridiculous. I'm putting in place for myself, for my boss, for all of my colleagues and peer, I mean, it's, you know, because it's a benefit to the employees. And it really is stunning that it's not seen that way, or at least that just the stuff on the other side. I mean, the letters that are being written by you guys, you know, to whatever. I'm just gonna drop it, but you guys should really do some more research on it.
Anybody have any questions on that?
Also under here, you have the attendance award program crossed out. Is that gonna go away, or
Okay,
I am on page 60, I guess? Here.
oh, you guys want to, yeah, 1 of 60, which is page 27, right?
There's a bunch of lines through it, the attendance award program.
I still don't see that, I'm really sorry, but I don't.
Page 27.
It's not medical leave conversion. All right, it's on 30, page 39.
Oh, we all say page 1 of 60.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hold on, we're on page 1 of 60. What's it on? I'm sorry, 30 what?
Got it.
No, this is still there.
30
It's
what?
still there. It's 39. You could still do that with PTO, and if you look at page,
So at Christmas time, they'll be able to
Yeah.
sell back this in 48 hours?
it's in the policy, I actually
Yeah,
upped
it
it to
just
50.
moved from
Well, I
what
would-
was
yeah, I
the
was just
section
wondering
under
why
medical
we
leave
go,
to,
you know.
yeah.
I actually
Okay.
upped it in this policy, I'm just trying to find it
And I think
for
we
you.
agreed at the last, well, we said we would agree at the last session that we would take the old language and plug it back into the contract without strike through or
Yes.
add it as an addendum, so that it would be the point of reference to it for, you know, the approval.
Page 23, 24 starts, section 5, says carryover and cash payment of paid time off under 5. D, employees with a PTO balance of over 200 hours will be eligible to receive reimbursement of accrued paid time off up to 50 hours annually at their rate of time for cash out. So it's the same thing, actually it's more than it is now.
Any other questions on PTO? Hearing none, seeing none. I mean, I'm sorry.
What happens if you have time off on the side when you're participating in PTO? Do I have to use, this was asked me by one of my bargaining unit guys, do you have to use the time you have on the side first before you can use your PTO?
So I think when you say time that you
You're
have
gonna
on the
have a
side,
parallel here.
right, so, okay, so you'll have annual leave, PTO, and sick. Sick, you can only use if you're sick, but you
Right.
want to use that first, right? Because that's only going to be cashed out at the end of 25%, where PTO is 100% when you're retired.
That
So you
makes
want to
sense.
use the 25% first. The annual leave, yes, we're going to make you use that first, not because it matters, but just because we're trying to extinguish the annual leave bank. It still gets paid out at 100% at the end. Yeah, but you want to use this first
Well, what about
because
the
the reason,
PTO?
go ahead, I'm sorry, the reason that you want to use it first is because the carryover is not as high as the PTO. Remember that PTO carryover becomes much higher. Instead of 500, it goes to 720. So you're using much more, you're able to have more in that bank, but we want you to burn off your annual leave first. You're only going to burn sick when you're sick, which is,
So you're not going to be using the PTO.
it'll just be accruing. It'll get high, and that's why the bank is going to get big, probably, yes.
Or is
What if
it-
a person wanted to access the PTO, you would not be, you would have to use the
Well-
letters on the side.
Well, it's the same, you're accruing more PTO, so, but it doesn't matter. I mean, why would you want to use PTO and leave annual? Is there a reason?
Well, just let me answer the question. Well, they still choose and elect to, for whatever reason, leave their sick leave, that's the question, right? Leave
Oh,
their
yeah,
sick leave
Or
alone.
leave
Yeah.
the
And
annual.
just tap into the PTO when they're
You-
sick.
You could, but you would never want to do that. The answer is you could for sick. You can't for vacation, because we're trying to exhaust all the vacation banks, just so that we
That answers
can.
my question.
Yeah, we're trying to exhaust the vacation banks, just so we are only tracking 2 banks, you know what I mean? Because eventually, it won't take too long, I mean, it could take 5 years, but the idea is actually to move to everyone to PTO, but, you know, we're never gonna exhaust those sick banks. It's gonna take 20 years sometimes for some people to exhaust those sick banks. But the annual, we're trying to exhaust that first, just so we're only running 2 banks, you know, or actually 1 that's accruing and then 1 that's held. But there's no difference, because the PTO gets paid out at 100, the annual gets paid out at 100, so at retirement, and so you're gonna wanna use, you know, you're only gonna wanna use your sick
So
if
you're
you're sick.
saying that I won't lose anything?
Right. Right.
Okay, that answers that.
Okay, so we're still under, what was all this? What other post PTO?
That
18, no,
was.
not 18,
19.
19. Okay, so we're still under Article 19. When we get to Section 11 of Article 19, it's titled military leave, and there's no revisions in there, we'll only see that. And Section 12,
Yeah, okay, that's,
I was gonna say in Section 12, other leaves of absence, it was conveyed to me that the only revision is putting in AKA flex time.
That's right.
Is there any new meaning to the phrase flex time?
No, I just noticed over time that it's been used interchangeably here when we talked about it.
Is there a reason why it's just not renaming? Just curious, just renaming that section, flex time.
So we're trying to think of.
People are
I'm just
still
asking,
using-
I don't know, I'm not saying that's a proposal, I'm just asking.
No, people are just still using time shifting forms. We have time shifting forms all over the place. So just to not have it be confusing, just leave the 2 in there until. So in other words, if we say.
There's only one in there now, right?
Yeah, it's called time shifting now. Everybody uses time shifting, but a lot of people call it flex time. Problem is, if we just take it out and use flex time, then people are gonna be like, what do I do with my time shifting form? So if we, in other words, if we're trying to transition over, we double it up for the one contract and then change it over the next time, so that people get used to seeing both. It's not a big deal.
Okay, and just for the record, so there's no change to the meaning of anything, it's just simply a reference.
Right.
That's true.
I'll talk to the committee about that, I don't think there's any problem, but I just want to check it in first. Legal defense, Article 20, there's no revision, we'll TA that, as well as Article 21, management rights, as well as Article 22, no individual agreements. Continuing the TA to Article 23, outside employment. As well as Article 24, past practices, which does have a revision in striking out that transition language, which you're okay with. Probationary employees, Article 25, there's no changes, we'll see that. No changes, promotions, Article 26, we'll see that as well. Article 27, reclassification of positions. In fact, I could probably just go on a little run here. Article 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, we're all on TA, there's no revisions on any of this. Everybody caught up?
Yep.
That brings us to Article 34, seniority. Our proposal still stands, and we're not interested in accepting the proposal on that. Article 35, shift to launch code. We're going to insert the words that my request pretty much for each hour or each
part of an hour.
Or part thereof. Each hour or part thereof. And that gets repeated again in the section below it too, right? I don't understand the letters here. So I guess the first one is A, the middle one is B.
Yeah, A, B, C, yep. I don't know why that's. got off, I don't know why.
So that each, or.
Yeah, so in A and B, it's this, for
Would
each
also
hour
be-
or part
Only
thereof.
work career-based documents, so it got,
Okay, I'm sorry.
That must have picked up formatting issues.
Okay, yeah, well, whatever, but my question is that in that next paragraph, we're also gonna
Yep.
change it or part thereof. I'm sorry, you have a question?
Okay, I'm seeing here, and I see where it says until midnight now, but a shift differential of 5% of base pay shall be paid to, shall be paid for each hour an employee works after 6 o'clock until midnight?
Correct.
Okay, so if they're working, say, till 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock,
Then they would get 2 or 3 hours, right?
2 to 3 hours of that 5%?
Well, from 6 PM until, not of the 5, it's 5% for the hours that, so if they work 12 to 8, say 12 PM to
Yeah.
8 PM, then the 2 hours that are from 6 to 8,
Mhm.
they would get 5% for those 2 hours. Or,
Okay.
Does that count when the EOC is activated and you're on EOC time?
the emergency pay is a different policy, so,
I think we're gonna be okay with this, I like it, I
Yep.
just, I wanna just clarify with the committee.
yep, that's fine.
Article 36, standby, there's no revision, so they're gonna TA that. As well as Article 37 and 38. 37 is temporary local health application, 38 is uniform. And there's a resolution and a reference to the career service manual. That's fine. 39 is union-related matters, and specifically section 1, union bulletin boards. The counter was to agree to adding a new location at the East Pasco Government Center, and Jim, you said you addressed it more for you, but we verified that it was okay, right?
Yeah, we just didn't know the address, I think we
Well, our
just,
proposal gave it, but I thought you Googled it and said nothing came up.
Yeah, but somebody,
Yeah, somebody
was in here
put it
today.
right.
Lance
that-
is back there.
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
sorry, didn't see
Lance
it.
knows.
142, 36, 6th Street.
So we'll fix that.
So with that revision, we can carry that section. Section 3, union insignia, there's a revision in there about the left or right shoulder, that's good. TA that. Union leave account, union stewards, and union visitation. I guess that's it, we're all okay with those as well. No changes, so. All right, that brings us to wages and salaries.
40 voluntary transfers. We didn't make a change, so.
Oh, no, that's good, I'm sorry. Yeah, let's do that. All right, so 41, that brings us to wages and salaries, and the membership, the negotiating committee are not interested in having a pay for performance program. What we understand that the board approved, regardless of what they approved, the total is 4%. So our counter proposal is that year one would just be an across the board 4%, effective 10/1/17. And year 2 and year 3, as written in your proposal, is okay. It basically says that we have to reopen the contract in year 2 and year 3. And that's where we stand with that. Transportation surcharges, no changes to it. Just, I don't know if that's even being applied or not. And that brings us to Article 42, which is work scheduling. And the union's rejecting the county's proposal to put new language in, that's section C of 42. We're on the TA D and E, which falls under the heading attendance. We're on the TA G and H, which falls under the heading of lunch and breaks. And there's no changes to Article 43, workers' compensation. So okay with that.
So I'll just go back to wages for a second. The county administrator obviously under the county administration form of government, determines what he's gonna ask for wage increases, and it's budgeted based on his ask in the budget. And this year, his ask was a 2% COLA and a 2% merit. So are you saying you only want a COLA increase and want us to calculate what the COLA is? Because the 2%, the other 2% is merit-based. So
Well-
it's like you're rejecting the merit portion,
No,
but that's,
obviously, that's not the case. We're rejecting the concept of a merit-based performance-based program system, whatever you want to call it. And, if I'm not mistaken, maybe I misunderstood, the last time we were bargaining, the county, I thought you were describing that first 2% was a pass-or-fail.
correct.
So that's changed now? So
No,
that's-
it's still a pass-fail. I mean, it's a COLA increase, but if you fail your eval, you don't get it.
Well, then that's still merit-based. It's not a COLA. I mean, you describe it
Well,
as you want.
Well, you may, from what I'm hearing in your counter proposal, you're leaving 2% on the table,
No,
and
no,
you're talking
no,
about
no.
leaving an additional 2% on the table.
Well, it's just, that's ridiculous, Jim, and it's just frankly insulting. You know that's not the kind of union proposal. The union proposal, as I said, is a 4% across the board increase. What can be confusing about that?
Yeah, and we just didn't do that. I mean, that's not the way that it was.
Well, whatever you've done is subject to bargaining, and that's why we're
Right,
here.
okay.
So
Right,
we're
I get it.
bargaining, and that's our
Yeah.
proposal.
And
Okay.
John, you're the one that referred to what the Board of County Commissioners, that was your introduction. to
Right.
the
Well, my
issue.
introduction was in that way, because from what I understand, that's the fiscal impact that proposal could have on the county, up to a 4% increase for every person who's working for the county. That was my understanding of it. And so, with that being understood, going beyond the 4% doesn't seem to make too much sense for us, because we probably won't get it. But since it's budgeted at 4%, that's the reason I have that introductory comment, as you call it, is because since that's what the county seems to be able to afford for budgetary purposes, that's our proposal, but it's in the form of an across-the-board increase for everybody.
Okay, that's the way I wrote it down. Year 1, 4% across the board, year 2 and 3 reopeners. That's your proposal.
Regardless of what account the DOCC agreed to or didn't agree to, that's what our proposal is.
Okay, I mean, all right, I want to take do you want to start to tee it? I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you, you know, we're set on the merit increase. That is what we're proposing to do this year. You know, so
May
we're
I
not.
ask why that was denied in previous meetings then, when that was talked about?
What do you mean? What was
Whenever that was brought up, or that kind of a merit-based system, payment system was brought up, it seems to me that you rejected the idea that was going to happen.
What? No.
I mean, that's
Not
what
at
I
all.
got from the.
For years, we've been
We've
talking
been
about
talking about-
shifting to performance-based,
But we've been
and
talking
it
about.
was an issue of timing. Now's the time.
Well,
under
but we've been
county's
talking, every
proposal.
time it came up, we've talked about implementing a step plan or some kind of a
That's true.
plan to meet that out.
Yeah,
And,
that's true.
That's not the same thing as merit-based. What we talked about was becoming a performance-based, a merit-based pay organization, and that's what Michelle Baker was trying to go toward. That is consistent with administration's view, that's consistent so far with what we've gotten from the board, is that they want to reward better performance, and you know, and quite frankly, you know, part of the discussion we have in management teams is that, you know, if you have a person who's barely getting to work on time, barely scraping by, calls out
Discipline.
all the time, I'm not talking about a discipline issue, I'm talking about performance that is just, you know, you just do enough
But
to not get
that's
disciplined,
also
just.
why I'm sorry to interrupt, but that's why we talk about implementing some kind of a step plan, because the way that it has been done in the past suggests that the way it will be done in the future. And what happens is, there's no objective way to evaluate performance.
We
And
don't
We
agree
disagree with that, right.
We completely disagree with that.
The new form is
well-
actually position-specific. It actually rates you not only on the core values, on things that are most things that employees get rated on, which were quantity and quality and attendance and things like that, which are absolutely objective. But then also this new performance evaluation form actually takes your own job description and actually rates you exactly on the work that you're
Well-
supposed to be performing. It's the most objective form that I think you could find.
Are you gonna be providing a form for this?
It looks like you have it.
I got this from someone on the bargaining team, that doesn't necessarily mean it's an accurate document, and I haven't even looked at it. I mean, it's kind of, if it's something you're proposing, we're entitled to see the proposal. That could be 6 versions ago, I don't know.
Well, again,
It did come
I
from
mean,
you.
the point is that it has gone out. The Teamsters were invited specifically onto the committee to help develop the form. And, you know, we sent the invite out. I will admit that your member didn't show up once, but all the documents were sent to him. That he was copied on every single email, provided copies of every single thing, provided all the feedback from the meetings.
Yeah, he wasn't representing the entire organization, so if that's something
was
that
who
you
you
want us
guys
to
gave
consider
me.
as a proposal, I would suggest you at least.
Well, again, every single form is different because every single position specific, there's a position specific criteria. So you'll have to tell me the position that you want. I mean, I can get you a copy. You obviously
If
have
we-
one. If you want me to look at that one and tell you if it's the right one, that way you'll have it.
If you're expecting us to agree to a performance for pay system based on the use of a form, or if there's, as you're describing, there's more than one form, then whatever those forms are, I mean, if we're gonna even.
Okay, well, can I view that one and I'll tell you if that's the right one? Because it looks like you have it.
I don't know what this is.
It's a performance evaluation. This is the new performance evaluation.
I haven't even looked at it, but if you're saying there's more than one, that's only one.
Well, no. What I'm saying is that it's all exactly the same, but each and every position, okay, so like right here is the last page, so you've been provided this as lead inventory specialist, okay?
What's
So
the job
the-
description, right?
Yes, because for each job description, there's a position-specific component. So each person, so the first pages of the form are exactly the same. There's organizational criteria, which are their core values, the respect, service excellence. Then there's another version of it, which is the initiative quantity, the attendance,